Well, hi guys. Today again we've got Simon Parks and Tom Sidney Bushnell, and we're going to be talking what's going on right now and the numerology linked with it. Welcome, guys.
Hey Charlie, good to see you. Hey
Hello,
Simon.
Tom. Hello, Charlie. Good
Hello,
to be
Simon. Tom. Go on, Tom. Show us what numbers.
Okay, yeah.
you've
We'll
dug
start
up.
us off. So, some things that I thought would be interesting for people to know about, and things that we could discuss would be this week. This week could perhaps be a very important week. A lot of us have realised that the 4th of March is the old Constitution date, and we're hoping that President Trump could perhaps be inaugurated on that day. Perhaps he still may be. It's getting quite close. It looks like maybe it won't be the case, but who knows? 107 mentioned things more like April Fool's Day, which makes sense in many ways as well. And maybe it would even be further. Who knows? We're not privy to everything about the plan. But I did want to highlight some things. So the 4th of March, when you do the numbers on it, comes to actually let's talk about the 3rd. We'll talk about the 3rd first. So the 3rd is actually tomorrow. If you cast your minds back a few months ago, President Trump came out into the blue, in the press room, and said very, very quickly and succinctly, he said the stock market has reached an all-time high, and he said it's reached 30,000. Now, 30,000, he said, was a sacred number, and when you do the numbers on that sacred number, sacred comes to 50, which is Donald, which is America. Number comes to 73, which is Egypt, Joseph, other things. But when you add them together, it comes to 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 comes to silver and gold. So silver is 85, gold is 38. Add them together, it comes to 1, 2, 3. Also, April Fools comes to a special figure as well. It comes to that. So that's an interesting one. But the sacred number part, so the actual number of 202 also comes to tomorrow. Tomorrow is Wednesday, March 3rd. So March is 43, 3rd is 59. You add 43 plus 59 together, that takes you to 102, which also is the word for 1,000, as in 30,000. And the word for 30 is 100. That's the value for it. But that equals Wednesday. So Wednesday, March 3rd, comes to 202, comes to the sacred number. Another thing that it comes to is in the Back to the Future films, which I always like to reference, is in Back to the Future 2, Marty's been playing with Doc back in the past. They have the sports almanac. Sports comes to 88, which is Trump. And the future has changed. They've changed the past, and they can see the future's changed. And the picture of Marty's father starts to change. The newspaper headline saying that his father's alive. He says, "My father's alive," and Doc is in his this time flying time machine, DeLorean. DeLorean comes to 74, which is Jesus, which is President Trump's age. Word point 74, etc. London, and he says it's the ripple effect. Now, the phrase "it's the ripple effect" also comes to 202, and there's a big there's something happening in regards to the crypto Ripple community. There's a guy called Gary Gensler, and his numbers come up to 131. He's getting put in today with the SEC, and he's very pro crypto technology, etc., and saying that things may need to change. But at the end of Back to the Future 3, you'll remember the train has 131 on it. 131 has a few values. 131 comes to John F. Kennedy, also comes to Michael Pompeo, also comes to Steve Bannon, but it also comes to this new guy, Gary Gensler. And those that know more about Ripple, etc., think that he could be a real key part in perhaps things changing. He's Biden's pick, but maybe he's asleep, and maybe he's been set up by Trump for a long time. But it's interesting the time of it. He starts his position today. Tomorrow is the ripple effect, or 30,000. But it's also Wednesday, March 3rd. So perhaps there could be something with that. But then going forward to March 4th, the 4th of March, it comes to 185, which comes to Donald John Trump. That's why I was thinking a few weeks ago that it could perhaps be his inauguration date, because the numbers married up. But it also comes to stock market crash. So 185 comes to stock market crash. It also comes to World Trade Center. It also comes to the City of London. So there were some interesting things I just wanted to point out, and we saw in the papers last week with Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods comes to 135. Everybody knows that Tiger Woods had a crash. 135 comes to stock exchange. Also, Piers Morgan, who was featured in the papers next to Tiger Woods, his value comes up 135 as well. Also, interestingly enough, Prince Philip, and he's in the papers a lot, and it looks like they're setting up the narrative that he'll pass soon. I would have thought, or something about him will happen, but again, his number comes to 135. So there's a lot of these numbers marrying together and sitting on the board in close proximity with each other. So I thought it'd be interesting to point those things out. But both of you might have some extra thoughts and insight on those things.
There's a huge amount going on. I was on the phone this morning from very early on, 4:30 this morning, through till around 6 o'clock, talking to the team on the quantum financial system and on the RV and on the global currency reset. They're incredibly positive. The hard work is done, and it's become very, very clear now that they're waiting for the correct time. That now, when we talk about the codes being in the system, we talk about the system being fully loaded. That is all done. The critical thing now is the timing, and this is where you come into providing us with numbers that can point out to timing, because none of us know. I certainly don't know, but I just know that they're very, very happy behind the scenes.
Yes.
And they're just waiting, and it's not down to you. It's not down to Simon or me. It'll be God's timing. And, Simon with his connecting consciousness, when he's got a group of people that can connect consciousness, that's where we'll get the information from. We won't get it from the team.
Yeah.
Because the information will come from God.
That's right.
So it's the people that can connect that will get the closest idea as to what the exact timing will be.
It's very interesting, Charlie. Something I decoded just early this morning from yesterday. This back page headline, I don't know if you can read that clearly.
Referee scared to give us a penalty.
Yes, that's it. So that comes to 310, which comes to what you just mentioned, Charlie. It comes to the quantum financial system. 310 comes to the quantum financial system. And another reason I believe that 310 equals the quantum financial system is a biblical verse in Malachi, Malachi 3:10. It talks about the windows of heaven being open to the people and getting a blessing that's they can't receive it. It's too big to receive. And some things with that is Windows comes to trumps, comes to 107. Heaven comes to 55, which comes to Melania. So you've got that connection with the numbers and the words, but also President Trump used to go to Yuma a lot for the wall. 310 Yuma is there's a film, 310 to Yuma. There's actually been two of them, but he kept going down to the wall and pointing out the wall and what was happening there. But I always thought in my mind, Yuma, 310 to Yuma. 310 is Malachi 3:10, and the quantum financial system comes to 3:10. The other thing I've just remembered is also in regards to 135 being Tiger Woods, being Piers Morgan, being Prince Philip, being stock exchange. It's also Wall Street. So when Tiger Woods flipped his car that we saw last week, 135, i.e. 135 Tiger Woods crashed. 135 is also stock exchange, and it's also Wall Street. So Wall Street crash, stock exchange crash, etc. So they're telling us things that are, linking things together that are I believe, are coming soon. Another one as well is March Madness. So March Madness is a sporting term in America. It's their college basketball season. It's kind of the height of that. And March Madness, when you do the numbers, comes to 118, which comes to the storm, which comes to the blackout, which comes to the silver, etc. But we're going into March, and perhaps it could be a mad month, a month of madness. But the numbers again add up, 118, which also comes to Harry plus Meghan, which Simon and I spoke about just a week or so ago. comes to Tom plus Simon 118. It's my cousin Paul. It's his date of birth that passed, and I've mentioned him before. So it's interesting, the time that we're moving into. And then there were some great comms that President Trump spoke about in his address at CPAC, and Simon mentioned some of those. And the start time, Simon, what did you get out of it? Because I'm sure you got a different but also very relevant code as well from it.
I don't get the codes. I was just told that the timing of the start was very important.
Okay.
The time that he'd been given to speak, he'd never had any intention of speaking at that point, and there was
Right.
a film that they were going to run anyway. So I don't know what the numbers mean. I was just informed
Okay.
that it meant something, and that's why I want to hear from you.
Okay.
It was 1 hour 17 minutes late, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh wow, 117. Well, that's good, Charlie. So
117.
117 comes to market crash. When you do the numbers, you add the words. Market crash comes to 117. Had that piece in the paper a week or so ago with Meghan and Harry that was plastered all over all of the newspapers. But the one I think with the Star started off saying publicity shy couple. Publicity comes to 117 again. But 117 equals market crash. And if that's the length of his actual speech, then I think that's very telling.
That was the time he started that was late. He was 1 hour 17 minutes late, and that's when he started.
Oh, okay. Sorry, 1 hour
17
17 minutes late.
Yeah, from when he
But
was
still,
first.
that figure of 117 is very very potent and very important. Another thing about the start time. So I clocked it that he started at, because you saw the bright side reference. Their clock on the the corner of the screen, and it said it started at 4. He started to physically speak at 4:50. So I looked at that. I thought, okay, 4:50. So 4 plus 50 comes to 54, which comes to love. He spoke about, do you love me? We love you, and all this stuff going through the speech. But also then it had PM, which comes to 29, which comes to Diana, and then ET, I guess Eastern time. ET comes to 25, but when you add all of them together, it comes to 108. 108 comes to Mr. Ed Root, which was an optic talking about JFK back in September 11th, when you and I did a piece on that, Charlie. Mr. Ed Root also comes to our dear friend Jack Edward Kidd, 108. Hoverboard from Back to the Future films, which is in that piece with the ripple effect. There's a hoverboard, comes to 108. But also, I think for right now, it comes to full moon. Me and Simon spoke a week or two ago about the half moon and significance of that. But full moon, it was a full moon when President Trump spoke.
Yeah,
and it comes to 108. So full moon comes to 108, which is when you add up the visual optics of the start time was 108 as well, which I thought was very deliberate and on point again. So he also mentioned some other things I noticed. He said at least twice. He may have said it other times, but he said at least twice, loud and clear. Now, loud and clear, as we know in military terms, is a loud and clear signal. It's a 5-5, or sometimes maybe a 25, a 5 times 5, or even 5 plus 5 is a 10. But 55 is like super loud and clear, and that's what that is. Dan Scavino made reference to that many months ago when President Trump first came out with the first picture of the mast, and he did a great diagram of saying military terms loud and clear, like they're on the case, they're doing the job. But he said loud and clear at least twice in that speech on Sunday. So that was another ear pricking moment. I was like, okay, he's telling us it's coming, get ready. I thought there was a lot of good things that happened in that speech.
Yes, it certainly was. I didn't watch it live. I watched it in the morning, and I found it completely fascinating because I first thing in the morning I had a response from a number of people that were concerned. It wasn't what they were expecting. I wasn't expecting anything. I was just hoping for just signs, and I got bundles of them. I like the fact that Biden was shot in December.
Yes. Yeah. He took a shot.
I like the fact that he lost the White House. There was other significant things.
He said he referred to Biden as the chief executive.
Yes, he did. Yes,
Yeah.
I like that. Air Force One was at Orlando, which was also very interesting as to who's actually using the planes. When I was talking to people behind the scenes, I've said this the whole way through, that the military are currently in control in America right now, but they're communicating, for the want of a better word, with one of two people, and his surname doesn't begin with B.
No. Another thing that he, if you remember his, when he started off, he said something along the lines of "thank you" and "great to be here." But when he actually kind of first gave there could have been comms in that as well. But second or third line in, he said, he just said, "a lot of things going on," and then he proceeded to, and I saw that and I was like, there's something there. But I did the numbers on that, so a lot of things. So lot, it comes to 47, which is John. Atomic Silver, of is 21, and things is 77, which is Christ, which is power, which is Hertz. But you add them together, a lot of things comes to 145 numerology, which again I thought was very interesting. And you said about two other people. Anyway, I'll put this out for thought. If you finish the phrase, it's going on, a lot of things going on. Going on comes to 81, which comes to Tower, comes to Tiffany. But you add those together, it comes to 226. 226 consists of 132, who is Princess Diana, plus John, which is 94. So if you add 132 plus 94, you get 226, which is a lot of things going on. So it's interesting that those things came up. You did the reference on numerology, plus Princess Diana, perhaps, and John. So again, I thought that was interesting right off the bat. To lead in with those numbers, I thought it was really interesting and powerful.
What perhaps could say is that, we know that the good guys didn't crash Tiger Woods' car. Bad guys that did it, and both sides are playing the numbers game. And ideally, one would hope that the good guys were going to try and prevent a crash. However, if the dark side haven't pulled out of the top end of the stock market, then there may well have to be a crash to clean things out. So we genuinely don't know, but both sides are playing, and the bad side have done that. I remember years ago when there's a bus with children that tragically crashed and caught fire, and that was a sacrifice. So the bad side of do all the bad things, and the good side do images or they'll say words. And I do think that it's imminent, simply because 3 months ago, seems a lifetime ago in this place, but 3 months ago I was told that we should expect something between the 4th of March 2021 and the 9th of April.
Right.
That was 3 months ago. So the kickoff point was the 4th of March to run to the 9th of April. Now, I wasn't told what would happen in that time frame, nor exactly when, but that was the time scale I had to look at.
That's very interesting, those dates, Simon, because I remember when we spoke last time, you mentioned, or no, the first time I think when we all spoke, you mentioned 4th of April, and you had some thoughts about that. Obviously, that's Easter Sunday. Any other additional thoughts or insight into 4th of April, or what you understand that to be?
Well, look, some of us do believe in God, and some of us, don't believe in a man in a chair floating in the clouds, for Lord's sake. But I do think that the choosing of President Trump wasn't just a group of men sitting around a table pulling some cards out. I think it was a lot more spiritual than that.
Yes, I agree.
And there are two ways you could look at it. It could actually be an affront to God for somebody to come back on a religious date, because it might seem as challenging God. On the other hand, it might be seen as appointed by God. So again, I haven't got an opinion. All I can tell you is that those people who will make these decisions, probably the Joint Chiefs, those were the dates they were working with 3 months ago. Now, who knows, may have changed now, but certainly everything that we're seeing is moving towards this part. And one more thing, just to let you know, is that the team around Biden have declared that Biden probably won't come to the big meeting in Britain in June. So they've just announced that Biden hasn't been out of the country, hasn't had any visits with any foreign governments. And the first foreign government he was supposed to meet was Britain in June at the big meeting in Cornwall. And his team announced late last night that probably he wouldn't come to it. So that's, again, very interesting.
That is interesting. Cornwall, because Cornwall comes to 98, which comes to independence. So that's interesting. That's interesting that I didn't even know they were meeting there, but that's interesting.
Boris Johnson wanted it to be in Cornwall, so that's where it's actually set. Now, it's not a virtual meeting. I think the leaders of the world are coming there, and basically they're saying no, Biden won't be going. Now that thought was very interesting because that's June.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on this, guys? Something I thought about, and the numbers came up for it. So 172 comes to hyperinflation, and there's a few numbers that have been popping up with that in the papers and other sources. One thing I'm thinking perhaps maybe a possibility is because President Trump spoke about energy prices going up, and if something like hyperinflation happened due to the suppression of the economy with the lockdowns, someone was giving it sounded like I'm not an economist, but it seemed to make sense what this lady was saying from Northern Ireland. But it was quite doom and gloom. She's saying hyperinflation is imminent. They've suppressed everyone through the lockdowns, and when that's lifted, it will change things, and it will trigger hyperinflation. She felt, and it made sense. And then I was like, well, if that is in the cards, that's all part of it. Perhaps if that did happen, that would be an elegant way for the white hats to pump in the gold. So if the fiat currency goes out of control, then perhaps they're able to marry it up with actual real gold backs. I mean, I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? There was something that came up, and then I thought, maybe that's a way to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's also a very dangerous way to do things because ordinary people suffer. And if you're a white hat, that's the last thing you want. And I hope that when the time comes, they just switch off the old system. But what I am detecting is that a lot of people in the know are pulling their money out of the stock market. We're talking vast amounts of money being pulled out now.
Right.
And also Lloyds Bank have announced a massive reduction in any banker earning £1 million salary a year or more, and HSBC are cutting their office space by 40%. So I think the main key banks know what's in the pipeline. I wouldn't want to see hyperinflation because I look back to what happened in Germany between the wars. Hyperinflation sort of destroyed all the ordinary people, and yet the landowning people made on it. So again, I think that from an economic point of view, it is a possibility. I think she's right, but I honestly don't think that the guys who have spent so long to get things right would allow that. I mean, Charlie, what's your view? You're the money man.
I am, but I'm under a military NDA, and I was trying to think what I can and can't say.
You can scratch your nose and wink.
Exactly. What can I say? Number one, the new financial system is fully up and ready to go. The information that you've just given there is pretty accurate on virtually every count. There is a lot going on right now. Yes, the stock market will crash. That's why people are taking funds out of it.
Yeah, they know, the people in the top, Charlie, they know the score, don't they?
Of course they do. They know what's going on, but this is all part of the process. For the normal human being who's just got a little bit in there, what they'll actually gain in the bigger picture will far outweigh what they'd have lost in the short term. But the stock exchange is a posh boys casino. Let's get real about it. That's what it is. And I've never ever been a gambler. I've never casinos. I've had the odd flutter. Just like we've been to Vegas a few times, and I'll have a little flutter just for the fun. And if I win, I walk away, and they hate me. They absolutely hate me. I was offered a free upgrade of rooms and come back to the table. And I said, no, I paid for my trip. I paid for this. I paid for that, just by winning one time a large, reasonable amount of money. I think I won about $3,500, which I thought was a decent amount for 100 for $100 gamble. And that, I was happy with that, but they were like, no, you can come back here anytime. So and the stock exchange is an upmarket version of a casino. And I've always found it hard enough to earn it, let alone just gamble it.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Same here. I've never done it either. Well, not in a casino, maybe a free bet online on a football score. But I'm not like that either. I'd rather, I guess, take gambles in venturing forward. No. You did it once, did you say, Simon?
No, never once. Not even.
Yeah.
Nothing. No, I just
three wise men.
The energy attached to money at the moment. Once it's all changed, then money will be neutral.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned about myself is I've never really had a love of money. I've liked nice things. Yes, I admit that, but and the people who've been obsessed by money, I've never really got on with. I've always learned that if I work hard enough, money takes care of itself. And that's all on this journey. That's why I've given the responsibility of the money to my wife. I said, you deal with it. I have no interest in it. My interest is establishing truth and not having a focus on that. So it's done her an awful lot of good. It's done me a lot of good. Because I fought with her and with Lee and with Jimmy for 3 months not to monetize because I just wanted to work and focus on the truth.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing because, I never once monetized I never put any adverts on, and everyone was saying to me, oh no, you should do it. You should do it. You can make money on that. And I thought, having understand how the Babylonian spell works, that was the last thing I wanted.
Sure.
And then people were saying, look, you could do what so many other American people do, which is, you can let the first couple of minutes of your updates go free, and then people have got to pay for it. And I said, well, that's just what the elite do, So exactly. I've really I hope, understood how money not just controls individuals, but it controls information. And that's what's got to be stuck. And I think the three of us here today actually fully understand the trap that money is. And it's got to be cleaned. Now, money's a great commodity. Don't get me wrong. Money's a great commodity, but it needs to be neutral.
At the moment it's a necessary evil, for the want of a better word.
Talking sorry, Charlie.
Go on.
No, go, please.
No, I was just, at the end, there's a lot of people out there financially who are suffering and they're having a difficult time. And I've said it a few times. This is like giving birth. This is the contraction period. It's a little bit painful. I say a little bit painful. There's women out there that would disagree. They say it's very painful.
Charlie.
But I've never had those sort of pains. I've had the pains of being married 4 times, and apparently that doesn't compare. So, but we're coming into a wonderful period, which will be just like the birth of a new child. It's a wonderful, wonderful time we're coming into, and we just want to embrace it and enjoy what we're going through right now. For those people who are awake, just take away your fear and just sit back and just know. Martin Geddes, I think, mentioned it yesterday that the war is won. We just need to, the timing of everything, that's in God's hands. It's not in our hands.
Yeah. Something else as well. Charlie
can't go on for much longer, though. I mean, if we
it won't be
at the situation we have. I mean, forget NDAs and all that. Just look at the common sense aspect.
Yeah.
It can't go on because basically the United States is in limbo, and it's in limbo from all the other foreign potentates of the world. The big corporations, the companies, don't quite know what to invest, when to invest it. They don't know whether they should do this or do that. Now, that works for a few weeks, but it can't go on for months, because actually the United States will go into a nosedive. So I believe something positive's got to happen soon.
This month, 100%.
Yeah, I agree.
I've been told that you had the 4th. I was told by the 6th of April something big would happen then. I've also been told that it's Mental March.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mental March, yeah, Madness March.
Yeah.
There's something as well, all in that area, guys. You and I spoke, Simon, about the number 219, which came up in one of those Meghan and Harry papers, and I did some more numbers on it. I was thinking perhaps it was February 19. Anyway, I looked at it further, but it points to some perhaps possible locations. One of them being World Trade Center. Sorry, One World Trade Center, I should say. So one is 34 DJT, but the new name of that single building, it used to be the two World Trade Center, but now it's just the one. One World Trade Center, so 34 plus 185 Donald John Trump comes to 219, but it also comes to the Mount of Olives. And something that I've been thinking about, the Mount of Olives is a biblical feature. It's this the end of the sign of the times. But something that I thought in regards to all of that is, do you remember with Steve Bannon when he did that piece on the water in New York, right in front of the Statue of Liberty? And it's there, they declared the independence of China, the new republic, and they talked about peace on earth for 1,000 years. So that's a direct reference to the millennium, this age of Aquarius, this Trump millennium, whatever you want to call it, the new age, the golden age. And that was right there. And I've been thinking for a long, long time, I know that right now New York is in a mess, but it's such a significant place, and it has a power there, even, and that's why there were good and great and bad things happening there. It's President Trump's home. I just think there's going to be a lot of things around that when we kind of see the real amazing things. But in reference to Steve Bannon and China, again, Simon, you were talking about the Chinese elders and King Solomon's mines, and I was thinking perhaps the way that the good people of China, the new Chinese Republic, if they're the ones funding the ZIM that we've heard about, and they're focusing there in New York in front of the Statue of Liberty. Statue of Liberty is a symbol of freedom, of liberty. And I just wondered if there was a connection between the two, and also the Mount of Olives, and perhaps two places symbolically and physically, and maybe timeline, have a connection, i.e. the Mount of Olives and also One World Trade Center, reversing what happened back in 2001. But it was so interesting that Steve Bannon, because we're told that 2001, when that happened, that's when they wanted to do the first reset, but it was stopped. But now they've got these optics of Steve Bannon on a water platform with this gentleman from China talking about the new Chinese Republic, and they're the ones that we've heard, and Simon was talking about that as well in regards to the wealth of the Chinese elders and King Solomon's mines. And I just thought there's an interesting connection with that. And another thing in terms of dates, another one that is interesting is the word 14th. So 14th, take it TH at the end. 14th comes to 132 again, which comes to Princess Diana. President Trump is born on the 14th of June, 14th. And talking of April, excuse me, April 1st is a Thursday. Thursday, I keep seeing down the calendar line. Thursday looks like a storm day. Perhaps it's the beginning or an end of a storm. Thursday is Thor, god of thunder, god of storms. Thor comes to 61, comes to casino as well. We've mentioned the casinos. But the interesting part of that is it comes to first light. So first is 72. Light is April 56. That's all right. She's confirming it, or he's confirming it.
It's the mailman.
But first April, or April 1st, comes to first light, perhaps after this March Madness, the storm 118, March Madness. It also comes to redeeming Zim, comes to 128, first light, April 1st. So I just thought those things were interesting. And the other thing about Princess Diana 132 is, you and I spoke about this, Simon. Resurrection comes to 165. Operation Warp Speed actually comes to 220. So again, that was one I had to correct. But when you add those together, Resurrection plus Operation Warp Speed, it comes to 385, which is a nice blend of 38, which is silver, 85 is 38 is gold, 85 is silver, which is a perfect blend of the two again, which does point to, again, silver and gold, which is April Fools. 1, 2, 3. So again, I thought that was an interesting one. Yeah, and
what there has been
about
what there has been across the planet, it's very interesting, is that secret operations under the Temple Mount to discover an original building, and the last year of Obama's reign, another part of in Great Britain, Stonehenge was found underneath them, but Obama was actually brought over and given a personal tour. Now, that's not normal. You don't normally get world leaders coming over unless there's something massively significant. And Trump has been very careful with Israel. He's handed it with kid gloves, really, because there's a lot of energy about that place. And so this business with it's not King Solomon's Mines, Tom. It's
sorry, King Solomon's Temple. I should have said.
Yeah,
that's what I meant to say. Yeah.
It's the temple. You see, when King Solomon started to collect all the wealth, it was the very first sovereign fund. People don't know that. It doesn't say that in the Bible.
Yeah.
And he was collecting it for his people. Now, his people weren't just the Israelites or the Jews, because remember, they were mostly from Egypt. But they were for anybody who came under his dominion or under his control. And that money or reserve was literally a sovereign fund. And of course, we know that there was wars and all the rest of it. And that money, but the energy with it, went to different parts of the globe and built. Now, this is the important thing. That's why the Bank of England and others are placed on these very powerful energy lines, because it will actually make things multiply and grow. And so the point is that maybe what's happening now is that all roads lead to Rome, and Solomon's money is now coming back into what we loosely call a sovereign fund for all the people, but not to be handed out on the corner of the street to be squandered, but to actually be used to change the world for good forever. So I'm quite tickled, because Solomon's money, all those, it's about 672 BC, is now on its way back into the very, very original concept that King Solomon had for his people. And I think that's why I'm so blessed to be on the earth this time round.
Yeah, the numbers as well on King Solomon, Simon. So King Solomon comes to 103, which comes to September, which comes to Princess, which comes to JFK 1, his age. King is 41. We're in the year of 2021, so 20 plus 21 is King, the year of the King, the year of Alien, the year of Good, the year of USA, year of TSB, the year of Fun, the year of Key. But when you do King Solomon, it comes to 144, which comes to Digital Soldier. And also one of the names he went by was Jedediah. And Jedediah comes to 50, which comes to Donald, which comes to America. It makes me think of Jedi, Return of the Jedi, Star Wars, etc. The Return of Jedediah.
No coincidence on that at all.
Exactly. There's not. And the other thing about the mount, so you've got Dome of the Rock. You've got that as another feature in Israel. But Dome of the Rock comes to 138, which comes to revaluation, which comes to Donald Trump. And I just discovered yesterday, the American Dream also comes to 138, which is Donald Trump. 138 again, revaluation. So it's littered with all these amazing things that are in our mind and psyche already. And the other thing I was going to say about 132, the word 14, or Princess Diana, and resurrection. So 165 equals resurrection. 165 also equals Simon Bard Parks that we mentioned last time. So 165 also comes to Westminster, which is the borough that I'm in. And then I got thinking of Westminster. The other thing about that is Christ bloodline. Bloodline comes to 88, which is Trump. Christ is 77. So Christ's bloodline comes to 165, which is resurrection, which is also Westminster. And then I got thinking, okay, Princess Diana, her funeral service was in Westminster Abbey. Westminster Abbey, when you add them together, comes to 200. Another way to say 200 would be to spell out the word. So 2 comes to 58, which is Nessara, which is XRP, which is Ivanka, which is Star, which is Robin from Batman and Robin. But 100, when you spell the word 100, comes to 74, which is Jesus, which is Messiah, which is London.
How old is Trump?
And exactly, it's President Trump's age, 74.
Right,
yeah, he's 74. So when you do the numbers on that, you get so you say the word 200, 58 plus 74. You add those together again, it comes to 132, which comes to Princess Diana. So I was like, that's very interesting. She was buried, her service was there at Westminster Abbey.
Yes, I remember it.
She equals the 14th. She was my first real kind of, one of the number, but very significant markers in terms of Q, because her burial service at Westminster Abbey started at 9:08 in the morning. 9 plus 8 is 17, which is Q. When you do the numbers on the word 17, 109 comes to Diana Spencer again, comes to Zapruder, it comes to my channel Cyclop, comes to 17. So there's a lot of things with that. I thought that was interesting. Resurrection, we spoke about it, 165, Christ bloodline, Westminster Abbey. You do the full numbers on it, and it comes to Princess Diana, which comes to 14th. So I think perhaps March 14th, maybe April 14th could be again very significant. So yeah.
I think it's important to say at this stage, when I first started studying numerology, Tom guided me on the journey, if you like, but I was told very, very clearly by one of the people at the top that they were going to use numerology against the deep state and Kabbalah because they'd used it against us all of our lives. And that's what had spooked them out, is the fact that the good guys were using their own tools against them. And that's what made them very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's why people are deplatformed off YouTube for mentioning Q or anything to do with Q.
Yeah. Yes, very much so. Yeah, very much so.
I'm looking forward to the day, guys, when I get a little letter from YouTube saying we're dreadfully sorry.
The algorithm was wrong.
You get a postcard when you go on holiday, whenever we used to go on holiday, and it said wish you were here. So I'm waiting for my YouTube postcard to say wish you were here. So one day when there's a bit of a change at the top and the rules and regulations are rewritten and the standards change, then maybe we'll all be invited back. What do you think?
Well, I think so, Simon. I like that for sure.
I actually need Facebook because I'm useless at remembering my children's birthdays. It's a very necessary part of remembering whose birthdays are when.
You know what YouTube's useful for now? All the good guys are off it now, or nearly all off it. You know what YouTube's good for? Russian car crashes, adverts every 15 seconds, which makes you absolutely sick of it, or music videos. That's all YouTube is good for now, because all of the debate, all of the inside stuff is moved completely off. And so what you've got is a total dumbed down media entertainment service, which is sorely in need of quality information coming back. And until there's a big change, I'm not saying all these executives have got to be sacked or fired. What I think is going to happen is the operating rules have got to be changed so that we have freedom of speech, and that's so important. And I remember President Trump saying that although the election fraud was one of the biggest things, he said probably what's happened to the media is even bigger.
Yes, it is.
A lot of free speech. So I mean, he gets it. He knows.
Yes, Simon, you hit on another nail there. So I did the decode on this, maybe I think on the same evening as President Trump's speech. But YouTube, the phrase that they used to use, maybe they still do, is broadcast yourself. That was kind of their subtitle, broadcast yourself. So the numbers on broadcast yourself actually come to 204, and 204 was mentioned a couple of times in the newspapers, but I think it's significant because broadcast comes to 83, which comes to Mount, which comes to election, comes to prayer, comes to faithful, also comes to Caviezel, Jim Caviezel with Sound of Freedom. And yourself, the word yourself comes to 121, which comes to the fourth, i.e. President Trump, the fourth child, comes to 121, comes to Revelation, 121 comes to Golden Jubilee. Add them together, you get to 204. But that comes to Kennedy's plus Trump's. It also comes to crypto plus currency, because Kennedy's comes to 97, which is crypto. Currency comes to 107, which is Trump's. And another thing that just popped into my mind when I thought that I wanted to mention is President Trump's TV show, The Apprentice. That comes to 33 plus 107. Apprentice comes to 107, which is Trump's. So, which is quantum, which is currency. And when you do the numbers, The Apprentice comes to 107, which, The Apprentice comes to 140, which comes to the Trumps. It comes to Simon Parkes, and it comes to Tom Numbers. So, I thought those were a fun one as well, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's all very exciting, and thanks, Tom, for explaining it, because I knew there was, and I did say, there was lots of stuff dropped in, but I don't get the handle on the numbers like you do. But I know that the bad guys have been using it before Babylon, and so it's rather nice that it's been put back their way now.
Isn't it just? That's one of the most exciting things for me, that their own weapons are being used against them, and they're exposing themselves rather than being exposed.
Yes.
By the White House, they're doing it themselves.
Yeah.
One of the other things before we go really was that I honestly don't think that the good guys have any intention to let whoever's behind Biden damage America. I know that politically there's a useful debate here, and in his 1.5 hour speech, or 1 hour 34 minutes, whatever it was, he did say, look, prices of gas going up, and of course that's an American term for fueling a car. We wouldn't say that in Britain, but he was saying that all those prices are going to go up. And I think that's a political thing about saying to people that's what you're going to get. But I actually don't think that that hardship is going to get. And what he didn't mention, and I wish he had mentioned, was how drug prices in the US are starting to shoot up, because what Trump did was he held the cartels with the medicines prices low. Now, I understand from my own members in America that now diabetes medicine, which was maybe at about $50 a shot, is now like $300-400. Now, they're not everyone's got a medical plan that will pay for that. So, I don't think the good guys are going to let this go on for much longer, because ordinary American people are suffering, or they will start to suffer really badly. I mean, Texas, for instance, took Biden or his team days before they would announce an emergency which releases funds to the state. Had that been California or New York, he'd have announced it immediately. But because it was Texas that has fought him so hard, he really dragged it out. Now that's a difference. And I remember when Bush was in power, and some of the southern states were hit with that terrible flooding. Because they were black people, and because they were down in that part of the world, they didn't get any help for ages and ages. And this is what we've got to get away from, this playing of politics, because you don't like somebody. And that's so dreadful. And so I don't just want a money change. I want a complete dynamic change of the values that we have on this planet. Otherwise, it's pointless. If we change the money system, guys, but the structure of all the organizations is the same, we don't really have freedom. So for me, it's a financial freedom, and it's a freedom of the valuation of humanity. And if we can get the two together, then I think we'll have a real change on this earth.
I agree. Simon, you said something then as well about point that I did. So President Trump also said, one of the markers he said was, he talked about something being 1.5 million, and he said it in the speech. And I did the numbers on that. 1.5 million. So 1 is 34. 34 is DJT. Point is 74, President Trump's age. 5 is 42, comes to new. Million comes to 84, which is Sunday, Arizona. But you add them together, and that comes to 2, 3, 4, which comes to King Solomon's Temple again. So I thought that was nice that he mentioned that.
Just is no way is that a coincidence.
No,
exactly.
I take my hat off to these people with Trump who sit behind and say, right, well, we've done all the calculations and you need to throw these words in. I mean, that's just so fantastic, isn't it?
It's amazing.
That's why this chat today with the three of us is so important, because there'll be a lot of people who knew something special happened but didn't really get it, and that's why it's so vital to get this information out, because otherwise all the good guys who spend all this time doing all this numerology stuff, is it for naught, it's for nothing if we don't pass that out. So that's why I was really keen to be involved in this, because it's a way of passing that information out. A lot of people are getting really upset, and Charlie, you said this, and you know, what do they expect? They wanted Trump to stand there and say, on Tuesday, the tanks are going to go down the street. That is not what is going to happen. But that's what we're at that level now where, you know, so many people want that. But America is supposed to be a democracy in the true sense of the word. And whilst I will just say this, I know, Charlie, you got to keep your mouth shut. But what I will say is that I think the good guys have got no problem in removing the bad guys, but I don't think the good guys have the right to put a president in. I think only the people have the right to put a president in. And so there is probably, that's the most delicate part. See, in Great Britain, we don't have a constitution. We don't really have a Bill of Rights. We don't have a republic. So to British people, this sacred thing, we don't get, because we don't have it. We have a Magna Carta, but that's just told to school children as a piece of parchment with some interesting writing on it. But to the American psyche, these are absolute cherished things, and not for light reasons do people do things. You know, lightly will they do it. So I just say to the audience, perhaps just try and understand that the dynamics and the repercussions of even the smallest decisions are monumental, and that is why it's not progressing at a speed that so many people want. Can you comment at all, Charlie, on that? Anything?
Yeah, the one thing I can say is you have to look at what's actually going on in America right now, and what's actually going on is the military are in control, 100%, and that the United States Corporation was dissolved in 2018. So the Supreme Court have no legal standing. They have a visual standing, an optic, but from a legal perspective, they know that they don't have the authority that they have, because they're working for a corporation that has been declared bankrupt. And the official receivers will be saying, you can't do this. And so if you listen very carefully to what the Supreme Court saying, they can't hear this case.
No,
that's what they're saying, and they're being very truthful. They can't. They have no authority. But the Trump's team are having to go through that process to take it to the military tribunal. Otherwise, they'll point the finger and go, "You've missed out the Supreme Courts."
And Charlie, would you agree with me that the executive orders that were written over the past few years actually put the military in the role of receiver?
Yes. Yes.
But that may not be clear to a lot of the audience. Yes. You see.
These are all very critical executive orders and what it does, Simon, is it gives back power to the people, because the military are there for two things: to defend the Constitution and the people of the United States of America. They're not there to protect a president.
True. And in fact, they're the only organization that swear, in the true sense of the word, that allegiance to it. You see, here in Great Britain, the military swear an allegiance to the monarch.
Correct.
King or the Queen. They don't even swear an allegiance to the Prime Minister. So this is, again, for Americans to understand who watch your shows, that, you know, we don't have that. You know, even the policemen and police women in Britain swear an allegiance to the Queen. You know, it's a completely different ballgame, and that's why a Prime Minister in Britain will never have either the moral understanding or strength or physical strength that a president in the United States, a true president, has, because you can't actually call in Britain on the military or the police to actually uphold the law. Only the Queen can do it. I mean, that's
when you
hard.
And when you consider now that the Queen currently has no standing any longer, the police and the military in the United Kingdom are acting as free spirits at the moment because they don't have a boss. The sovereign household is no longer. And if you believe for 1 minute they're still decorating Buckingham Palace, I suggest you book in to see the nearest brain surgeon.
I think she's in Sandringham, isn't she? Is she in Sandringham? Is that where she's gone, Charlie?
Yeah,
she's gone to one of the other houses in Scotland.
She's probably in a travel lodge somewhere.
Or a royal travel lodge, Charlie.
Doesn't know where she is.
Exactly.
Simon, just before going, you said something. You mentioned Ronald Reagan, and he was made reference to in President Trump's speech.
Yeah, he was one of the good guys, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. So some things came to me in regards to that, and I put them out. I can't prove it other than my hypothesis for the numbers. But So when you do Ronald Reagan comes to 130, which comes to the Kennedys. Okay, his middle name is Wilson, which comes to 92, which is numbers, which is also Manhattan. And I still think and believe that Manhattan is a big piece on this board when we see everything unfurl. But you add all those together, so 92 plus 130 comes to 222, which is a really great number, 222. And we've been told to follow the twos. And also the great film Point Break, which comes to 111, which comes to New York, features an actor, Patrick Swayze. And there's also the other film he was in is Dirty Dancing, and I've said for a while that that's a Q film. There's even a reference in there where they say follow the twos. He's teaching the girl to dance, and he says follow the twos, follow the twos. So 222 comes up a lot, which is a super potent number, but it's Ronald Wilson Reagan. And there's a piece in Point Break, the other film with Patrick Swayze in, and there's a part where he's wearing a mask. He's wearing a mask of Ronald Reagan. Now the numbers on Patrick Swayze, Patrick comes to 78, which also comes to Kennedy. Swayze comes to 99, which is Patriot. So Patrick Swayze or Kennedy Patriot, and he's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And there's a part where you see it, and he doesn't get killed by Keanu Reeves in the film. He lets him go, but he's wearing the mask, and I'm thinking, hang on, could it be, with all this thing with good guys, bad guys, clones, doubles, witness protection, all these families, etc. I wonder if Ronald Reagan perhaps was maybe very closely connected to the Kennedys. That's what those optics on the numbers and on the film pointed to me. I'll just put that out and let people think about it. But that was something that I thought was very interesting. And as you said, he was one of the good guys. So it was kind of Kennedy, Reagan, and President Trump. I've also heard some positive things about Nixon, but I don't know enough about it. But I thought that was interesting in terms of the numbers. And the other thing as well, you mentioned this, Charlie, about how they brought everything down. And I thought about the whole thing with the Vatican, the head of the beast. You take the head off the beast. So the numbers for Vatican City come to 127, which also comes to the ace of spades. So when President Trump did it back then, took the head off the beast, the ace of spades, you can't get a more powerful card on the deck than the ace of spades. And I thought, wow, that was pretty incredible.
I agree.
Brilliant.
I've got to go, guys.
Same here.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thanks ever so much for organising that, you two. It's been brilliant.
Cheers. Great to see you guys.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks, Charlie.